Hello Art Fam, welcome to part 6 of my Gilding a Monogram Wreath series. I'm going to show you some stuff at the beginning here where I'm testing some golds out, and the sizing that I'm using is Mona Lisa, the cheapy kind from Michaels. So I have a lot of frustrations with this because it stays sticky basically and won't burnish, but I eventually got my Instacall in the mail and it was much better for the next wreath that I do. But this one, I make do with what I have, and I'm gonna bring you through the whole process. So here I have a little test sheet where I was practicing my green and golds and just swatching them out. And I have this little button here of 24 karat gold that I used the Mona Lisa sizing, and if it's not dried correctly, you run into this here where it gets all screwed up and it's sticky and it just doesn't adhere properly. And this one is 24 karat gold too, but flat. It doesn't look all that great. This solvent one looks really good. Again, this is the solvent, but I was afraid it would bleed into the paper, but it doesn't seem to. It does there. See, that's the solvent, but I did not put a layer of ink underneath it, and I put 2 coats on this one, I believe, but look at how beautiful the dots look raised. This is the Fine Tech. This is flat. Yeah, it's pretty flat. And this is the 24 karat gold, my practice run. Okay, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this part because these are my mistakes, but this is an amethyst stone, worry stone that you rub, and this is pink quartz. And I figured, I don't know if they'd be the same as agate, but I figured I'd try. So I directly burnished right on the 24 karat gold, and that didn't work. It just scraped it off. Don't do it. It just doesn't work. But I had to try it for myself, right? Then I tried a smoother stone, and it's sticky. So I have to put that down to the Mona Lisa sizing, that cheap sizing, because the gold came off on my amethyst, and it was very frustrating. And it just seems to stay sticky, and it's possible I didn't put enough gold on. Here I try wax paper. Does not work at all. I know you're supposed to use glassine paper, but I just figured I'd try. So here it is sticking to it, and then the wax actually comes off onto that gold there and makes it dull. As you can see, I'm shining it there for you, and you can see it just makes it dull. So don't do that. It's not good. Then I go in with some parchment paper, and because I didn't have any glassine paper and I didn't have time to order all these things, so I tried that and it just did the same thing. It just made it dull. It was better than the wax paper, but you see, it just makes it dull. And then I went in some more times trying to burnish the gold directly, really gently, and it just doesn't. I don't know if I had the wrong type of gold or if you have to use patent gold for that or a certain type, because mine was loose gold at this point. So it just didn't work. Anyway, I hope you learn from those mistakes, and this is my test sheet here. I was just practicing painting D's for my niece's wreath, which I'm going to make her a wreath with a D as well, and I'm just trying to get that burnishing to work. But I tried it with agate too. I got them in the mail from Amazon, and it did not work either. So that D in the middle has solvent in it, and then I did all little swatches of different golds there just to see which golds look the best. And so that's just my practice sheet. Let's get on to actually what worked and gilding the actual bee now. Okay, I've applied the sizing to these 4 dots. And it's been, I guess, about half an hour. And that's tacky. This gold here I'm using, I got on Amazon, and it's loose gold. First time working with it, I recommend using patent gold, where it's a bit easier, which I used second time on my father's wreath. But this is loose gold, and it's actually really good quality gold, and I will leave a link to it in the description below. Okay, there I was actually blowing on the dot. That was before I got a straw. I got wise and used a straw, but I was just huffing directly on it, just like the scribes and illuminators did on the actual Bible pages. They referred to that as the breath of God going right into their creation, which I love that, because we are creating here on a microcosmic level, you know, just like God creates. And I'm gilding my very first dot right here, and the whole video is not going to be this painfully slow. I will speed it up, but I just want you to see sometimes the actual difficulty of this and delicacy, and you know, how long it actually takes. There's some of my messy hair in the way, and I'm just huffing on it again and grabbing that gold. And I actually do pretty well for not having the proper tools and instruments, you know. I've got some cotton gilding gloves on there, which are good to have, but they attract all my cat hair, I have to say. And I take a little bit of static from my hair. You rub the brush in your hair and take a bit of static, and then go and take some gold. And I'm just using a brush. I don't have the proper materials here. So I'm just basically doing the best I can with my limited supplies. Later, for my father's gilding video, the initials WE, if you watch that video, you'll see I have better materials. I got Instacol from John Neal Bookseller, and I got Miniatum ink, and it's just better, so much better than the Mona Lisa sizing. So you can continue watching this. I'll speed it up and give a little comments along the way if I have any to say. Okay, so you'll see as I put the gold on, I'm brushing very lightly over it with the paintbrush. That's just my cheapy gilding paintbrush again with the washi tape on it. And I get the gold all over my gloves and everything. But I found that just running my paintbrush over it softly was enough to burnish this gold to make it shinier. And I'm remembering now doing this because I did this bee quite a while ago, and watching this video after having done a second wreath, I really took the long way on this one. It was my first project, so I was learning as I go, but I remember putting layer after layer of gold on because I would come and I would try to burnish something, and then there'd be a scrape on it, or I would dull it down with whatever I did. So then I'd have to go back and take some more gold and pack it on there. And it seemed to also, I watched a video once and it said, how much gold do you put on? You put on as much as it will take. So I just kept trying, laying gold on it, and just kept taking more and more. I'm not sure if that's because the Mona Lisa sizing was very sticky or I had a large surface to gild. But it just kept taking the gold, and I used that whole book on, I think it was 10 sheets I had for I left the Amazon link below. There's 10 sheets in it, of those 3" by 3", and I used the whole booklet on this bee. Okay, so here I've sped it up to 2 times the speed, and I'm packing on the gold, but I cut out a spot where my head was in the way. But just know that I kept breathing on it, and you can keep breathing on your gold and applying another layer on top of that layer of gold. Keep going until it stops accepting the gold. Okay, I'm going to give you a tip here that I didn't do. If you're gilding, you want to put paper around the bee on the watercolor paper to cover up your project, to stop any well, I should have done that with the watercolor first of all, but also with this gilding, it just protects, you can rest your hand on it and it stops anything from rubbing into the paper or anything like that. So that's just a tip that I didn't do here, but I suggest that you do. Here I'm using a natural bristle mop brush, a very soft one, but it's goat hair, so it's not the softest, but just to brush off all the little pieces of gold and clean up the area now. So that's just an inexpensive size 12 round mop brush, in case you were wondering. And here I'm going in with my white gel pen to just clean up some little green areas. And that was pretty much the bane of my existence. I made so many little green mistakes just with the watercolor. But you really have to watch the use of this pen, because when you tilt the paper, the pigment ink shows as shiny. So I'm doing this here, but just be careful if you have to do this. I'd say do it as a last resort. Use a Tombow Mono sand eraser to erase any mistakes you have, and then you can I would probably just save the white gel pen for little dots, like just do tiny little dots if you have a little tiny splatter of paint. But that white gel pen will leave the page shiny where it is. Later I sand it down so you can't really see it, but I was very lucky that it all worked out in that way. Again, I'm getting out another sheet of gold here, and you can see how small they are and how delicate they are. Later, I end up using some tweezers that I have, the kind that you press in so that they open. They're actually Cricut brand for my die cut machine, and I end up using that. And after I ordered some patent gold, it was a lot easier to cut out little tiny pieces and use the tweezers to work with it. So if you're going to do this for the first time, skip the loose gold, I would say, and go right for the patent gold, which is the kind that's attached to it's either tissue paper or glassine paper. So as you can see, these dots are accepting a second application of gold. I think that has to do with the Mona Lisa sizing, because when I used the Instacol, I only put, I think it was only 2 layers, but this one here seemed to take 3 or even 4 layers of gold. It could be the different type of gold as well, because I was using patent the second time, and this time I was using this loose gold. So I'm not sure exactly what the difference was, but I felt like I used a lot of gold on this project. And when you see my head in the frame, I usually cut out, if it's there a long time and you can't see anything, I will cut the footage out. But just know that I'm huffing with the deep air from the bottom of my lungs. You know, you don't blow on it like you're blowing lightly on something. You huff on it from, you do like an ah sound onto it from deep in your lungs to get all that moisture onto the sizing. So another thing, during this video, it would be very, very long if I left all the footage at real time, but I think you get the idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the first part of each section real time, and it will remind you how long this takes, because as you watch like a twice or 4 times sped up video, you tend to forget how long it actually took. So I'll keep bouncing between the two, and you will go back to real time, and then it will remind you, oh wow, look how slow it's going. Okay, so this is fun. So I was getting smart, and I was turning over the piece of gold. I already put the sizing on that piece, and I huffed on it already, and I would see I was trying to, you know, put it down upside down and push it on there, but the whole piece of gold fell off, and then I got scared that it was gonna stick onto the paper, and imagine if it did that, it would ruin the whole thing. We can't really get it off. So just, I don't know, learn from my mistakes. It's good to watch these things. I'm leaving the mistakes in so that you can see that, oh, okay, that can happen, you know. But I ended up taking a little static and picking it back up with the paper, thank goodness. And I just push the gold in and do the same thing. I'm working in 2 areas here, the little diamond as well, because I'm very frugal with this gold as well. I pick up every tiny little speck, and I want to get it either on my art piece, or I pick them up and I put them in a little jar and collect them for another time. Okay, so this is my very first time gilding, and I've got my first 6 areas gilded, so I put down my brushes and I'm happy that I feel like I know what I'm doing now, and I feel really confident enough to proceed. Okay, so I'm gonna go into a sped up video of 4 times speed now. So you'll be able to get the idea of what I'm doing, just like I described, and you can watch it at full 4 times speed here. I should also mention, with this Mona Lisa sizing, I'm gilding about half an hour to 40 minutes after the application, so it's still really sticky. With the Instacall, with the other wreath that I did, you can basically gild up to 2 days, but you're really pushing it. But you really need to huff with a straw and get it really moist to activate the stickiness again. But this, the good thing about this Mona Lisa cheap sizing is it really is sticky. But the downside to that is it's really sticky and you have to put a lot of gold on. I'm using this pen here. I think I just wanted a really tiny area. I missed an area, so I just used a Tombow glue pen to get a little bit of stickiness on that side there, because I guess I missed it with the Mona Lisa. So you can do that and it works. But I was saying about the stickiness, the good thing about it being sticky like that is, you have to keep packing the gold on, and it can ruin the shine of the gold if it stays sticky. So you really have to get enough gold on there to get your shine and to sort of get rid of that stickiness. And yes, you did see that right. I did gild the straw. And as you can see here, I'm huffing again on that gold piece, and you can see the breath go on the gold, and it's taking more gold. So I do that many times, and it just keeps taking gold. I found it frustrating too with this type of gold that if I was to get the sheet down and have it not wrinkle or come apart, and it was just one sheet and it laid perfectly flat, it looked absolutely gorgeous, and it was a mirror-like finish. And that's the gold standard, what you're looking for when you're gilding something, is that mirror gold finish. But as soon as you start folding in and just putting it in circles and making it stick everywhere, it loses a bit of that glass-like shine. So that's what really made me want to get the patent gold, that's already stuck to the sheet, where you can just simply put it down in one layer and rub it with your finger and have it in that one sheet. Somehow it just keeps that mirror-like shine a little bit easier than if you're to do it kind of like I'm doing here, where I'm folding it on and sort of packing it on and rubbing it in. So I've put a little real-time speed video here so you can see how long this actually took. Okay, so it's a new day here, and as you can see, even opening the darn gold piece of paper is hard. It takes some finagling. And even when you open it, you have to be careful because if it shifts, you see, it can fold in on itself. It's just very, very finicky to work with. Now here I'm doing that thing that I tried before, and I wanted to get that glass-like shine. So I wanted to try turning over a big piece, just a big flat piece, and seeing if I could get that mirror-like shine by putting the big piece. But as you can see, it's pretty hard going. And then I end up having to take that side gold off and put it on top anyway. So I realized at that point that I really just have to get some patent gold if I want to do it in that application way, you know, like by applying the one sheet and having it be really, really shiny instead of moving it in on top like I'm doing here, you know, just in pieces and sort of buffing it in. So here again, I'm taking my mop brush and I'm dusting off the pieces of gold, and I find that this gives a little bit of a buffing to the gold pieces, so it's really nice. But again, be very careful with this, because if I had a wet spot from where my straw dripped, I guess the condensation was building up in there and it dripped on the green part, and it started streaking around as I was doing this cleaning up, so just it can create a problem, so just be very careful of that. This was annoying. I had to re-sand this little piece because however I did my gesso, however I painted it on there, it just was really lumpy. I don't know what, just wasn't as good as the other parts. So I knew by the time I applied all the gold that it was really going to affect the surface. So I had to sand down this part again, which means I had to put on the sizing, sand it all down and put on some more sizing on this piece all over again. So I'm going to keep it sped up because there's no real special thing you need to know about applying the sizing. You just paint it on basically. And I keep it in that little container marked sizing, and then I make sure to clean off my brush with soapy water right after. Okay, we're speeding up to double time speed now. So I'm finding that it's really funny because here we are on, it's about the fourth application, I think, of gold. And this surface is still taking gold. As you can see, it's still accepting it. And you want to keep going. You want to keep packing that gold on as many times as it will accept it. And I just found that the Mona Lisa sizing, which is much more sticky than the Instacall, seemed to accept more gold than the Instacall did. But so the benefit of the Instacall is, you have, as you lay it down, it has that mirror shiny surface already. So maybe you need less gold to make it look good. Another benefit to getting the Instacall. And then you won't have to go back and sand your gesso because it's all uneven and lumpy. Okay, I'm here for the last section to put the gold leaf on. And then at this point I remembered, oh, gotta put my gloves on. So through the magic of video editing, my gloves are magically on. And I'm gonna put the gold on this problem piece. This piece I had to, because it was so lumpy and weird, I had to sand it and then apply sizing and then do that process again. So it was just really annoying, and it's still a tiny bit lumpy, but I just couldn't do any more to it. So at this point I was pretty happy when this last piece was gilded. Yeah, so at this point I had used the full book of gold, and I've got my second one out here. So I used 10 sheets on practicing, and then on this second, and then I'm on to this second pack of 10. So I'm really lucky that I had 2 of them. It's not the best way they folded it in this paper, but I found it was an inexpensive price on Amazon. But I found the quality good because I got another cheapy loose gold from Amazon in the tiny little 1-inch sections, and the quality was not really good on them. They had that red sort of Chinese looking stamp on them, and I don't really like them. I'm going to play around with it more and I'll let you know if it's really bad. But this quality I found as good as the really expensive patent gold I got. So you can use this link. This gold is pretty good, especially if you're doing it for the first time and you're practicing or whatever. It's actually a really good price. So just a note here that just occurred to me. They say when you're gilding, you're supposed to put the gold on first before you even paint the painting. Usually in the biblical ones they used gouache, but I'm using watercolor. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but it may have to do with the gold sticking to the watercolor or paint or something. But I just couldn't imagine, like I knew you were supposed to do that, but I just couldn't imagine gilding it. It just doesn't make sense to me to gild it first, and then I couldn't imagine painting it after. I don't know why, I couldn't see myself doing it, so I painted it first, and I find it's fine. If a little area has gold in it and it's like a mistake, I found that I could put a little bit of dark green over it. You still see the gold through, but it's really not a big deal. I mean, you want that artisan feel anyway. It's not supposed to be absolutely perfect, and the breath of God is already going into it and my breath mixed together, and it's such a beautiful process that those little tiny things, there's a little spot there where I may have painted over it a little gold area to hide something, but you just can't see it. So it's fine doing your painting first and then the gilding after. So here I'm just dusting off the last of the gold and taking a moment to reflect on the beauty of this gold. I'm just in awe how beautiful it is, and I'm totally addicted to this process now. You'd think that it's almost over, but it's actually far from finished yet, so keep watching. Oh, well, I guess this was a greasy hair day, so, oh well, greasy hair, don't care. There's many of us out there who will agree, many of us artists, that can agree that sometimes art comes before showers. Am I right, or am I right? Okay, here I am at the last stages. I've got all the gold on, and I received these in the mail the other day. They're 5 agate burnishers, and they were the ones that came the fastest. So I could either spend $50 on one burnisher that would take forever to get here, or $19.95 Canadian for these 5 and have them the next day, which was yesterday. It's like, this is so, if I make this look easy, then please don't think that, because this process is unbelievably fiddly and hard, and I've made so many mistakes. Just from missing little pieces of glue there, you can see, to places like this where the gold sort of goes outside of the circle, which I'm gonna paint over that with green at the very end. But here's another mistake I made. Oh, there's little bits and hairs all over this constantly. And when I was applying the gesso, little spots of pink gesso splattered everywhere, and I had to take out my sand eraser, and then I tried covering them up with just tiny dots of the white gel pen, and then you can actually see it. See, if I tilt the paper, you can see a little bit of dark there. So I tried my best to get rid of this. Like, I'd have a smudge of green there, and apparently this is very staining, so yeah. Anyway, so another thing is, I don't know if it's this sizing or this method of gold, which is loose leaf, it's not patent, the kind that you stick on, or whether it's the sizing and it's not Instacol and you're supposed to buff the Instacol to make it shiny first, then the gold will be shiny. But I just cannot get this gold to buff it or anything. Even if I just go the lightest of buffing on here, it still feels wet. It's been days this has been drying. And it actually scrapes off the gold, and it feels tacky still. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong there, or if it's just the sizing, which is the cheap Mona Lisa gold leaf sizing. So I guess that's it, because why would the other stuff exist, right? If there wasn't a difference. But here's the other mistake I made. So in order to, this paper's pretty flat, but there's still a tiny bit of warp to it, and I just wanted to flatten it. And I do it like I normally do it. I turned it over and I spritzed it with water, and I just kind of make the water go over it, and I put something heavy on it. And in order to protect the face of this, I just put another piece of this watercolor paper. It's the cleanest thing I could think of, and I just put it under there, and I dried it. Or I put the heavy thing on there. But what that did was, just pressing against that paper, it dulled the gold down a little bit. Just in a little tiny bit of a way, but it did it. So I guess here I am, I'm gonna apply another layer of gold and hope it takes. So, you know, I don't wanna use, this is my last packet, and I think I only have 10 pieces in here. Yeah, 10 sheets. So I don't wanna use all my gold, 20 sheets on this piece, because I still have my piece for my niece that I wanna do. So I'm gonna try to get as much out of this as I can. And I think I'm gonna breathe on it, not with the straw, just with my breath, so you might not be able to see that. You see, this is really dull now. This is not bad, but, and this is duller. They're all duller. Oh, drives me crazy. Anyway, here I go and I blow on it. You have to do it relatively quickly. Awesome. I'm gonna gild my finger. It's just so hard to work with this stuff. It's crazy. Okay, so we're in real time, and for brevity's sake of the video, I'm going to take us into 4 times speed again. I'm speeding up the video to 8 times speed to try to keep this video under an hour. So if you remember, it was really dulled down, and now it's really back up to very shiny again. So just watch that after you've gilded. Don't put your artwork face down and put anything heavy on it to flatten out the paper. Just you have to watch that, because it happened to me, and then I had to go in and shine everything up again. And this is what's so fabulous about the YouTube community and the artist community. We can watch a video and watch someone else make the mistakes in order to learn the same lesson. So I hope it saves someone else that lesson, but you'd think it would be obvious, don't put your artwork face down, but I've just done it so many times with my watercolor. I just wasn't thinking that the gold might dull down. But anyway, live and learn. It's like a little piece of gold or something has decided to live there. In my graphic design program, my 3-year college, if you had one tiny dot or a tiny pencil mark or any spot, immediately downgrade 1 grade. So it was so intense, and so you had to be meticulous in your eye for detail, and luckily I graduated with high honors, but many people didn't, and half the class who joined failed out the first year. That's how insane it was. I'm just going over and covering up. You can see little areas of pink. Now I gotta remember not to put my hand in it. See right there. Oh, and that does not cover easily. Oh, it's crazy. And this is sort of coming apart here. It's funny, I have super expensive, say, Kolinsky male sable hair brushes, and I'm using an Artist Loft, the cheapest brush you can get. I find myself doing that often, so if you're looking to know where to put your money into your art supplies, I would say the paint and the paper especially. Okay, I think it looks good. I should tuck it away now in a vault and not let any air or water, pets or people near it now. Hands or fingerprints. Okay, great. I've kept this video around an hour, which is what I wanted to do. And here's the final piece, which is finally gilded. And please stay tuned to the next part of the series where I put together the wreath and then frame it and then package it all up in a beautiful present. And I make my own stamped little tags for my aunt, and it's a beautiful wrapping as well. So stay tuned for the next part. Drop me a like, subscribe if you care to, and have a great day. Thanks for watching.